I'm running the show for a change. We're playing Beneath the Steel Sky. I have three other people with me. I have Yoda with me. Say hello, Yoda.
I just learned Grey Wolf can count up to at least three. Hi.
I have Mr. Skoulus with me. Say hello, Skoulus.
Hey guys, what's up?
And I have a special guest with me as well, Nikolai, who isn't actually part of Twinstiq, but sometimes shows up for stuff like this.
For GameClub. Yeah.
Hello.
The important things.
Right,
Yeah.
the important things. We don't have True Legend Killer with us today. He had to step out, but that's fine. There's four of us. See, now you know I can count to four.
Yeah. Woohoo!
Whoa.
Right, so we've been playing for the last week, actually, for most of us, probably the last day, in fact. We've been playing Beneath the Steel Sky. Beneath the Steel Sky is a very super old adventure game, but it came with the price tag of free. So I figured, why not let's play that, because it's been 23 years for me since I played it last.
Do you know the
Let's have a
story
look.
as to why we can get it for the low price of free?
There isn't really a story attached to it. What basically happened was, at some point in the distant past, there was a group of people making a thing called ScumVM, which one of our guys has been having a problem with. And ScumVM's sole stated purpose was to be able to run the LucasArts games.
Yes.
And along the way, it kind of took on other things as well. And the one thing that happened here was they found that they could make their VM sort of compatible with Revolution's engine. And so they're like, oh, hey, do you have a game that you would mind giving to us so that we can make sure that it works? And Revolution was kind enough to say, okay, well, yeah, work with Beneath the Steel Sky. And they gave them the source code, in fact. And that helped a lot, because it, obviously drove the development of ScumVM towards being able to run the Revolution games. And then they were just like, well, we've given you the source code, we may as well make the game free. So in 2003, they actually just said, here we go. And for a while, it actually lived on Revolution's website, but now it's just, whenever you have a GOG account, you can just get it for free. So that's the thing.
Cool.
I mean, the thing is that ScumVM's eventual aim is to run more than just Scum games. Scum is the engine behind the LucasArts games. So they've been working towards more compatibility with more games, slowly but over time. And most of them are DOS related. So that's why you can get it for free.
Well, that's cool. So that is a story. You said there wasn't a story, and then you told a very
Well,
cool story.
I mean, it's not much of a story. It's great that Revolution were kind enough to say, have the source code, and in fact they gave them the assembly source code, which is even better, because that's harder to work with, but it means that you can make it compatible with more things in the long run.
So this actually led to us being able to still play basically every game from before 2003.
Yeah. Well, no. It's allowed us to play Revolution software games with very little trouble. That's
and
what it means.
LucasArts games and stuff like that.
And LucasArts games. Because what has happened, there are two, if you get involved in DOS gaming now, there are two major sort of layers for virtual machines that you can use. One is, that make it easy. One is DOSBox, which is, I want to say, more like a DOS environment and more compatible.
Yeah.
And then there's ScumVM,
That's what I had to install when I tried to get Dark Forces to run when I bought it through Steam.
Yeah, right. I imagine you did. And ScumVM, which is very much easier to make things work out of the box, but has much less compatibility. And those are the two things. I mean, there is the obvious thing that you could do, which is just run like Oracle VM and then install DOS onto that. But that's more trouble than it's worth, because you've got to find drivers, and it's just, more trouble than it is actually worth.
Yeah.
And very few people actually go that route. So,
yeah, I've dealt with ScumVM, and I remember, because I was trying to run Day of the Tentacle, and because that was like one of the first games I actually played. Because that's one of the first games I actually remember playing, I should say.
Yeah.
And it's gotten easier still. It's gotten much easier. like, and before it was easy now, and now it's even easier. So you just run the game and it goes.
Yeah. Normally, like, if they package it up with ScumVM, what they've done is they've done all the hard work for you. So you just double click and away you go. It's not always like that, of course, but a lot of the time it is.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Day of the Tentacle, we might play that eventually because that's also a super good game.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, it is.
So we got a little off track here. So let's talk about Beneath the Steel Sky. Beneath the Steel Sky is a game set in a post-apocalyptic world where basically the Australia, because this is where the game is set, is divided into two. There are people who live inside what are known as the Gap, and the Gap is all kind of, I want to call it reservation territory, where everything's natural and, you know, people just get on with living. They hunt, they have fires, they tell stories, they do all that kind of thing. And then on the other side of this coin, you have people who live in this very built-up city. And the city is run by a computer, essentially. The computer's given off duties to human people, and the human people basically don't really think for themselves. So there's this big divide whenever you look at this game between thinking and just being a robot. And in fact, what ends up happening is that you play this guy, Robert Foster, who used to live in the city. He then crashed in a helicopter into the Gap, got raised in the Gap, and then he gets hijacked and taken back into the city, but we don't know why. And that is basically what we've been doing. We've been playing as Robert Foster and slowly been learning a bit more about the city and the people that inhabit it. So let's talk about the opening sequence quickly, because that was by Dave Gibbons. The story behind this game is that Dave Gibbons was approached by Revolution Software because they liked his art style, and they're like, hey, can you do drawings for our game? And he's like, sure.
Yeah, I've never done that before, but I'll give it a
Let's
shot.
try it.
What's that?
Let's start there. You want to talk about Dave Gibbons, so
Yeah, I'm trying. My computer is being silly now. Hold on.
Why? I'm not being silly. I'm being dead serious.
No. Fucking. Microsoft Edge started itself, and it's on my computer. Okay, there we go. It was like deciding, no. All that bandwidth that Chrome's currently using, I'm gonna have that. It's like, fuck off.
Well done. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So, you guys want to talk about Dave Gibbons? Talk about Dave Gibbons for a bit.
Well, I thought it was interesting because you talked about how he approached him to do the art for the game.
Yeah.
The main reason for that is because, well, Dave Gibbons did one of the more famous comics of all time, Watchmen.
Yeah, that little comic.
That little comic that some people may have missed. Obviously worked on
one
tons
of
of Marvel properties, DC properties. Drew a very famous Superman story too for the Man Who Has Everything. No one knows that one. But yeah, when they approached him to do the art, because when I saw that he did the comic, I was like, wait.
You actually had a little freak out.
Well, like, I pull up the comic, and it's like, Beneath the Steel Sky, drawn by Dave Gibbons, and I was like, drawn by Dave Gibbons? How the fuck could a tiny little indie studio afford Dave Gibbons in the 1990s? That's freaking bullshit.
Like, okay, so for the sake of context, right, this is their second game at this point. So they really were a tiny indie studio, basically.
Yeah, and they hired, one of the... He's up there with, Jack Kirby and your Jim Lees. So he's not a small name in comic book artists. But they approached him, and he was just like, sure. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I don't know. I've never made... there was a quote that I found. I don't know where it went, but I can't find it on the Wikipedia page again, so I'll just scroll up and see if I can find it on here again.
Right. Essentially, the idea of the quote was that he saw his son playing video games. He's like, I've never done that before. Let's do that.
Yep.
Okay, so now that we've got Dave Gibbons out of the way, let's talk about the graphical style.
Well, that also comes to how they were able to bring his art into the game, because he doesn't actually draw pixel art because he never drew video game art. So what he did was he just drew art, and then they took pictures of it, which at that time were 32-bit pictures, and then they down converted that to 8-bit, and so all the things in the game are just converted from a drawing taken of a picture and then down converted to 8-bit images and used in the game.
There are 256 colors, so like you probably lost a lot along the way.
Yes.
Most likely.
Right. And that's actually fairly visible, and like so much so even from the opening cutscene, because they do these bad zooms where the zoom's like, we're going to zoom in now, and then the minute they zoom in, it gets all pixelated and scary.
Yeah.
Skoolers, tell me about your thoughts on the art style. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What is?
I'm gonna level with you and just say that there's not a whole lot that I do like about this game.
I thought so,
but
that's I'm asking you specifically because I thought that would be the case.
I like a lot of its references and I like a lot of its humor, but the art style is pretty cool. I do like the art style in it. It looks as old as it is, but that's sort of has a nostalgic.
It's kind of part of the course, unfortunately. And the thing is that you're probably old enough to remember not having necessarily played this, but you're old enough to remember having a 15-inch monitor. And on a 15-inch monitor, this would look okay.
Sure.
But the minute you start playing
4x3, because it's part of that is because it's stretched to widescreen, you know. And I don't know of a way to change that aside from just going.
Oh no! I mean, you could get into the settings for ScumVM, but I don't think the way it's installed.
It wasn't easy. I couldn't do it.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had grabbed the version on, because I referenced 2 versions when I made the post. There's a version that you can get from actual ScumVM, and that comes with an actual ScumVM layer that you can tinker with. If you get the GOG version, it's already set up for you. You can change the configuration, but it's more trouble than it's worth, because you'd be tinkering with the GOG build and you'd have to go into the configuration file. But yeah, part of the problem with this game's graphics is because it was made in 1994, and because of the color palette they chose, especially, the game looks very muddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, though, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's just stretched out. So everything is just it's like your poor zoom through the whole thing. Right?
That's just unfortunately what happens when you decide to convert drawn images to pixel art. Like if he actually drew pixel art, he could use the colors that he's using. But when you just take a picture of the colors you've used and then smush it all down, it just browns everything out.
I actually, but I do like the art in the game. I think it's pretty cool. I even like their cutscenes and stuff. And I did not read the comic book because my copy doesn't have it. I don't know. I'll have to look. I think
odd.
Yeah, it's supposed to be there. Cody posted it.
Yeah, I posted it in Slack if anyone can find it.
Right.
It's
so if you want to look at that, you can.
It's not all that worth reading. I mean, the art's good, the paneling's fine, but it's very.
The story is just like,
it's just
what?
Exposition City. You could just read a Wikipedia sentence and get the same thing out of it.
Right.
So.
Right.
And much of what's in the comic book is actually sort of explained in the opening sequence anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was pissed off about. I was I mean, not that it was like a large investment. It's only like a 10-page half comic, but then you start the game and you go, wait,
I've seen these panels before.
I know all this. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a separate story or a continuation
or
anything like that.
They just wanted to include a comic book because they got a famous comic book artist to do the art.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah. It's fair.
Right.
But to be pointed, I think probably overall, I think the game's art is pretty cool. It is clearly 90s art.
It is clearly
set in a dystopian future, which is cool.
A 90s dystopian
very
future.
90s.
Yeah,
very
90s
System Shock 2-y, yes.
In fact, there are hilarious references to 90s things like video cassettes and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And God, what was it? There was one thing, and I thought I wrote it down in my notes, but I don't have it here.
Okay. Do you remember what it was?
I wanted no, I don't now.
Oh,
but it was a very 90s reference as well. It was just like something we don't even use now.
and like there are lots of little in jokes about how bad VR was at the time, and they make references to holograms and how holograms are just like hilariously bad, and it's got very 90s spins to almost everything.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reference stuff in there, like Doctor Who and Star Wars.
Yes.
They even mention a company called Hobart in there, which is a real company. It's a real manufacturing company.
Right, yeah. And Foster's Beer, which is also real.
Foster's,
yeah, which is what they got his name from.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm surprised, in fact, because Sierra had problems with this kind of thing, that Foster's let that slide. Because although I assume the Fosters didn't actually get wind of it, otherwise they might not have let it slide.
I don't think they had a lot of people at Foster's playing all the video games to make sure people.
Yeah, pretty much.
You never know.
Because Sierra got into a lot of hot water in 1989 for Space Quest 3, where they made a Monolith Burger, and Monolith Burger is like a space fast food joint. But when you approach Monolith Burger, it looks like a McDonald's M. And Sierra got sued into the ground by McDonald's because they're like, you can't do that, it's trademarked. So
and then Nintendo was like, hey, that's a good idea.
Yes. And they're still doing it.
Yeah.
So the other big problem with this game is the music. The music is not good.
Yeah, the music is really obnoxious.
And some of the sounds are also really obnoxious. If you go into there's one room where you gotta sort out a pair of valves, and that sound was just the worst because it didn't stop playing. Can't you do something about this revolution?
Which room was that?
So if you're on the top level and you go all the way to the left, you have to turn off the electricity.
Oh,
and
right.
And the only way to turn off the electricity is to press the two buttons, and that opens the valve.
Yeah.
And you probably blocked it out of your memory.
Oh, yeah.
A horrible sound.
It was, I repressed that. That was, that was
and in fact,
really bad.
There's a lot of sounds like that. If you start off the game, one of the things you have to do is you have to stand on an elevator, which starts an alarm. And good God, the first time I heard the alarm in 1994, I about browned my pants. They were swelled. Because I was not expecting that. And then the thing is, you have to do it more than once.
Right.
Because you have to get the wrench and the sandwich.
That one didn't bother me so much, but there is like the lathe with the laser.
Oh my God! Yeah,
that one bugged the crap out of me too.
I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to this, but also if you have the text on and the speech on, you'll notice that the recorded line's actually different from what is written in the text.
I did notice that.
Yes.
And some of them are quite funny. Like if you go down to the guy who sells body modifications, once you finish your transaction, the line he says is, "Thank you for doing business with me," and the text says, "Thank you for your custom." And they're just like hopelessly different. Wow.
Right.
Go and see my anchor. Is like go and see my friend.
Yes, that's right. Lots of little things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me, Yoda.
Yes.
Tell me about how you think because you are very into movies and that kind of thing. So you are probably sort of paying attention to the voice acting. How do you think the voice acting is?
It's better than Two Worlds.
There we go. I knew it. Again, that was why
I mean, it's
specifically going to ask you.
It's no, it's no Jennifer Hale. But
it's pretty atrocious.
It's not the worst I've ever heard in a game.
No, but it is pretty bad.
It's campy in a fun way, that kind of though.
Yes.
Like you kind of it fits like the Total Recall feel of it all,
Yes.
That's how I felt. It wasn't like it was campy, but it fit with the tone of the game.
It would be a lot worse if it was trying to be uber serious.
Time.
Yes. And in fact, when Cecil was working on this, Cecil's the guy behind Revolution Software. He was trying to find like a happy medium between how serious Sierra games were and how slapstick LucasArts games were. And he was like, well, the only way to fix that in this game is to make the dialogue funny. So some of the lines like Joey and Foster say to each other are just like,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I just want more games about Joey. I could care less about Foster at this point, but I love Joey.
Yeah, see, I really don't like Joey at all.
No.
I don't really like any of the characters at all, actually.
Okay.
For me, this game is really slow and boring.
It is really slow paced, but again, every time we come to a gray pick, I expect that, and I like that because it's just nice, slow.
But I need to quantify. Well, not necessarily quantify, but compare in the base that I generally like adventure games.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have a pretty good time with them. We were talking about Day of the Tentacle and like the original Maniac Mansion and all that kind of stuff. I like that, and I really liked Loom and previous, But this was like immediately I didn't like this game. And when I started playing it, I like some of the humor and some of the references and the lines. But to me, the biggest downside to this is the items that you use for inventory and your solutions for problems are so convoluted.
Yes.
Yeah,
we're actually going to talk about that in a minute.
Least.
Yeah. Oh man.
Unfortunately,
they're not as bad as like Grim Fandango.
No.
In terms of stuff like that, but it's still pretty out there.
Right, and the other problem is that this game doesn't do a good job of signposting, like at all.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's not always obvious what you need to do with what.
Which is fine. It makes you pay attention. But if you had to put this game down for 2 weeks,
you would be lost.
Coming back to it. Yeah, you'd have to start over.
Yeah. Well, I knew I was going to be in for a bit of a thing when the first thing I did once I had control in the game was I clicked to go walk down the stairs. And then I just got shot and died instantly. Yes. And I was like, oh, okay.
What? And in fact, there are multiple points in this game. This doesn't quite... Because Infocom was very bad at this. They would lead you on and lead you on and lead you on. And right at the end, you discovered that there was a thing at the beginning of the game that you needed to get that you didn't get. And now you were screwed. Okay. This game has parts like that, but they're not as far away as, you get to the end and suddenly you're dead. But it is possible for you to screw up and it is possible for you to die. So you have to be kind of careful. One of the things that is not immediately apparent is the foreman guy that keeps wandering around. You can actually trap him in the wrong spot and then have a problem. Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Really?
Yeah. If you trap him anywhere upstairs, or between the two elevator rides, you will immediately have a problem. If you trap him downstairs and then he goes upstairs, then you're all right, because then he tries to go down and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and that would be one. But the solution to one of those problems would have to be reload the game.
Yeah. Yes, right. Yeah, because this is very 90s design. Yeah. Nikolai, you said that before the podcast started, you were really enjoying this, and you actually played past the point where we were supposed to play. Tell me about that.
Well, it might have been because it's been a long time since I played an adventure game. Sure. But I was actually getting into the story. I was enjoying, learning more about this weird world. Right. And that's I wanted to know what happened because it's a mystery and you want to know more about this mystery.
Yeah.
About
I agree with that.
Where Foster came from, and you discover his real name, and right. I don't know,
the class system.
Yeah, because it starts you off right in the middle, you don't know what's going on. The game just starts, and you're in the first screen, and there's no explanation for any of it. You don't know whether
you don't even get the top-down menu for a while either.
Right? Yeah, you just you walk down the stairs, and then the cop kills you. So it's okay, better try another thing, and then you have to actually solve the puzzle. So I mean. Yeah,
it's interesting because they never actually even say, okay, you can move now, or click on this item over there. There's no flashing or anything. There's nothing to indicate that you can actually have control of your character.
It's a very 90s design.
I think it honestly did a pretty good job of selling where gameplay was. And as muddy as some of the art looks, I think they do a great job of separating the backgrounds and the characters.
Yes.
More so than a lot of games of this era.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were a few parts where I couldn't tell that there was an item to pick up.
Yeah.
Like there's items you can interact with, and there's background art, and like there's one part where you have to pick up some putty on the floor.
Oh yeah.
And that putty on the floor is a slightly different shade of gray as the floor, and there's like, and it's just a like 4 pixels just there.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to figure out that
that's what
there's
I pick up.
You have to grab that. And that was, there were a few puzzles where it was like that, where it was frustrating, where like you don't know, like once you figure something out, you're like, yeah, I figured it out, now I can do all these other things, and like nope, you still have to figure out a bunch more before you do all the stuff that you have to do. And that's not the greatest explanation, but
no, that works, because I found that too. There are a lot of items that you can click on to interact with, and they're useless. They don't do anything.
I think they do stuff later in the game, but I also can't be sure of that because I didn't beat the game.
Okay.
Right. Screwloose, just to allay your fears, right? It is a very slow game. I'm not going to lie to you. It is, and it gets going very slowly.
Sure.
And
I'm going to finish it because I don't like it that much, but I am interested in the story. Like Nick says, I have that. It has that going for it. I like finding out about its mystery.
Right.
But there's a lot of pixel hunting for stuff. Like in Reich's room, when you go in and you can click on everything, but the only thing you can actually
that matches is the pillow.
Is move his pillow.
Yeah.
You click on the fish tank. Oh, that thing must be bored. Okay. Yep. Click on the monitor. TV. It doesn't work. Oh, there's a poster. I don't want that. Okay.
Okay. So I think that the problem with that is that they were trying to do a thing that Sierra would do, which is litter the landscape with things that you could look at. But the difference between Sierra's writing style and this game's writing style is that Sierra would generally try to make what you clicked on that was not useful at least have funny responses. And this is just deadpan. This is a monitor. It's broken. Thanks.
Yeah.
If that's going to be your description, don't include it.
Yeah. Right. And there's so many things that you click on, and Foster just turns around and shrugs at you like, well,
and he tries.
Why did you do that?
Yep. Especially if you're. So we need to talk very quickly about the way the system works. It's left click to look and right click to interact. And sometimes you'll think that there's an interaction at a spot, and you'll right click on it, and Foster just turns to you and he's like, "What? Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
And he shrugs.
Yeah. Like, no.
The other thing, Screwloose, that I want to tell you is that the way this game unfolds, it unfolds very slowly, and you learn a lot over the course of the game. But the actual mystery only gets solved in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those games.
Oh,
good.
Is it one that you can actually like figure out yourself, or is it just a complete
you can probably figure it out if you're paying enough attention to the clues.
Yeah.
And like in hindsight, you'll go, oh. But like while it's happening, it's not immediately apparent, and then suddenly at the end, it's like, right, there were lots of signposts.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to agree with Nikolai in that I think the most interesting thing about this game is the lore they've made for the world. And I think a part of that has to do with the designs for the backgrounds and environments that you're in and stuff. A lot of them are really interesting, and you think, okay, there is something that happened here. I want to know
what the story is.
Yeah, what the story behind this room is. It's very Fallout-like in that sense.
Yeah. One of the things that surprised me when I was playing, is because it sets up Reich as this like ultimate bad guy, and then he dies on the second screen. Just like horribly, like he's blown to pieces, and Foster's like, "What the fuck?" Kind of like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's not Reich's
barbecued. I'll never eat kebab again."
Yeah, kebab.
Kebab. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Because
he does.
Yeah. Very badly, too.
Yep. So there's two other things that I want to talk about very quickly, and the one is that one of the things that I like about this game is that it does that contrast very well, because Foster's been living out in the gap, and he comments on things every now and then, like you walk into a store that sells upgrades, basically, and cyberspace's terminology, where like you can get muscles and a nice nose and whatnot, and he looks at these pictures and he's like, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Why would people do that to themselves? And I like that dichotomy, because he's very much representing the natural, and everything around him is not natural. It's all one big city, and to the point where the artwork makes it look like it's all welded together.
Yeah.
That's just some of that is a function of the very 90s artwork and the way it was done, but some of it is also kind of intentional. When you're flying into the city, for example, you can see smokestacks, but they're all welded together. Not one of them is loose. So how do we feel about the dystopia that this is displaying? And the other question that's related to that is, have you noticed that as you've gone from one level to the next level, it's gotten subsequently nicer?
Yeah. This is something I actually wrote a little bit about in my notes here, and
Sure.
You explained this is post-apocalyptic, and I didn't really see it that way.
Okay.
I saw it as just future dystopian.
Okay.
Like sort of Mad Max type dystopian, where it's just
Right.
like different classes, but maybe more Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say
that's
that's
what
a
I was
good
thinking.
comparison. That's a good comparison.
But the world is very dehumanized and overdeveloped. There's instead of towns, there are these just enormous cities, right, that just cover miles and miles of landscape. People go their whole lives without ever seeing any kind of foliage. Even Foster even mentions that, when you're in the apartment area, and he says, "Oh man, I can't believe these things were common once." And he says,
fact,
I've never seen something so green. Even comments on the sap. This is a real sticky substance in here, and so it's obvious that Foster lives in basically the Australian outback.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's not a very cultured guy. Like when he goes into is it the travel agency where it has the posters for the Statue of Liberty and London Clock Tower?
Yes. He doesn't know what they are.
Yeah. Oh, it's a giant female robot with a welding torch.
Yes.
Or London, or this huge dig at London, right? Well, that looks like a dump. I don't ever want to go there. I like that actually a lot.
Yeah.
So, but as far as just the dystopian element, I feel that's put together pretty well, and I like the class system. Like the higher up you go in the city, the lower your class is. Because if you have more access to the ground, then you have access to more freedom, because the only space is vertical. Yep. So if you're on the ground, then you have vertical and horizontal space. So it makes sense that people in this class system, the better off you are, the more access, the easier access to ground space you may have.
Right.
I like that.
Anyone else got any thoughts on that? No? Oh, sad. The other thing that I wanted to talk about very quickly before we finish this off, because we're very close to time, is you've seen your first Link interaction now. How confusing is it?
You know what? I didn't go all the way through it. I actually quit there because I thought that's where we were stopping. So.
Oh no, you're supposed to get through all of the links.
Yeah, after the end of the link.
That's fine. You were supposed to quit right after the end of the link. Was it confusing? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Is it silly? What's going on there?
All, yes.
All of the above.
All of the above. It's okay. So let me explain Link for those people who are listening in. Link is kind of what they envisioned the internet might look like, or at least databases might look like, if you gave them virtual reality kind of configurations. So you're a 3D avatar and you walk around and you pick up stuff and you interact with basically programs, and the programs are representations. Like one of the things that's sort of common to Link is you'll see doors, and sometimes you won't be able to get through. We haven't got there yet, but you might not always be able to get through doors unless you solve a little link space problem first. And the problem with Link is that because Robert is new to Link, and because the game is trying to set him up as a fish out of water, we don't get any information about Link either. So the first time we encounter it, it is super duper confusing. And the problem is, I'm going to say this straight up now, it doesn't get better.
Okay.
Just know it doesn't get better. But so
I think the first room that you start in is like is super confusing, and it's a pretty good representation of how the rest of Link was. Because okay, you're this weird pixelated naked version of him. There are two like portals on either end of the screen. You're on this platform in this oblivion, and there is a gigantic eyeball on this just watching you, and so you have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And so you like click on stuff because this is an adventure game and that's what you do. But it doesn't really explain much. Like you can these windows pop up that have explanation of what this particular program does,
but they're not real helpful descriptions.
No.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they then supplant your menu bar with link space items that are specific to link space. But the problem also there is that they never explain what any of these are. Some of them are kind of obvious. Like if you look at the description for one, it says decompress, and you'll pick up the compressed data and you'll go, oh wait, I need to do this with that. But some of them are just like, this is a symbol, and what does it mean?
And there is the question mark you've got in there for information about each one of those little things, but you read it and you're like, I don't understand that at all. So then you read it again and you go, maybe, and then you read it again and then like, oh, maybe I have to do this, but it's usually wrong. You're probably wrong.
Right. So I like the idea of the link interface, but I don't like the way that it's managed.
Yes, I did enjoy the link times, the parts that were in link space, but I was happy when I was done as well.
Because unfortunately, again, they're just poorly signposted, and I think that's probably part of the problem with this game is that there's a fair amount to interact with, like Scooter said, but the problem is that it's poorly, it's not obvious what you need to always do. Like there were times where I remember playing this in 1994. And I remember that we got very stuck on the mid-level for a long time. And eventually we realized that what you needed to do was you needed to talk to Anita upstairs to get the Shriveman port.
Right.
And that unlocked a lot more things.
Yeah, because that is not obvious at all. You have to go through a lot of conversation before that comes up.
To get there. Yep. And we were like...
If you don't feel like going through that conversation, then
you'll just never get there. Yep.
I, in much shame, consulted a walkthrough
we
twice.
Were actually no, it's fine because we and I should send you the link to this. I've posted a spoiler-free walkthrough that people can use.
Yeah.
Because with this game, unfortunately, it is sort of necessary.
Yeah.
Because of like you said.
Doing it. Yeah, I just assumed that everyone else was also using it.
I tried to solve puzzles on my own.
Yeah,
but...
I do as well. But once I've spent 10 minutes there, I go, okay, I'm ready to move on.
No, it's time now.
I tried that for a while too until I was like, oh, I'm so bored with this game, so I just went to the walkthrough and started playing it that way.
No, that's fine. The intended idea here always is for you to be able to play the game with us and for you to, have a conversation with us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When I put up an adventure game, I always automatically assume that people are going to use walkthroughs because that's the only way it's going to work.
Conversely, with Loom, I didn't use a walkthrough at all. I went through that whole game without one.
Right.
But I really enjoyed it. I liked the hell out of it.
Well, Loom is a really easy adventure game compared to.
It was very easy. But it also had such an entertaining plot line. Well, this does too, honestly. Beneath the Still Sky has a very entertaining plot line, but the way it presents it to you is so...
It's very slow.
Yeah.
And it's not. I don't necessarily think it's the slowness that bothers me because I mean I've been lately I've been playing Lost Planet 3, and you want to talk about slow? That's fucking slow. It's fun. It's really good.
Okay, I don't know about Lost Planet 3, so tell me about that quickly.
Well, it's a the Lost Planet series it's about giant bugs and
it's a third-person shooter. No.
Yeah, it is.
See, I don't know any of this because it's a third-person shooter. Okay, so it's very slow.
You move around at the pace of a guy just walking around, and then you get this giant mech, and it doesn't move a whole lot faster, and then you fight big bugs and stuff. But it has a really cool narrative story along with it,
right?
And it's quite pretty. So I've really been enjoying it. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just. It's not the slowness that bothers me. I don't know. Maybe it's just presentation.
Not every game is for everyone. We've ran into this in the Game Club before.
And I certainly don't. I certainly don't hate this, but there's not much about it that I would consider redeeming qualities. I feel like the sounds are really annoying. The music is bad. I just turned it off.
Yep.
The voice acting is atrocious. The story presentation is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying that a lot. I don't like the solutions to problems. Just being so, oh my god!
Random.
Like go look at this red cable on the wall. Look at that, for instance. The red cable. Yes. Oh, there's a cable. That looks like it would be useful. Oh, I can't reach it. Oh well. And then he walks inside, and then you do some stuff and this and that, and then by the time you get back out, you probably forgot about that red cable.
Right.
And there's no indication that Joey could even reach that.
No.
It's just a matter of, I think by that time you're so frustrated, you're just trying everything.
Right.
Click finally that worked. And that kind of bothers me.
Yeah. Let's talk about
I do love the fact that Foster is like a guy in a trench coat selling stuff to people, because if you just click on an item and use that item on someone, he's like, hey, want this sandwich?
Yes.
They're like, what? Awesome. Want this bar?
Right.
This bar.
Here, have a present.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Just take this.
I want to talk very quickly about that welding issue. This subscribes to a very 90s aesthetic. And part of that aesthetic with adventure games was sometimes you can't do it until you know about it. And so what ends up happening, and unfortunately this is a design problem with Beneath the Steel Sky, what it will make you do is it will make you go through the legwork of trying to solve the puzzle, and you know what to do, like Nikolai said. You know exactly what to do. Like there's another case in point where it becomes obvious that Joey needs to walk into a building, and into a storeroom, because he's the only guy that can get past the sensors. But you don't immediately figure out that Joey can actually do anything in the building until Joey's got a whole different shell.
Right.
And to get the whole different shell is a bit of a production, right?
Yeah.
It's not obvious what to do to get that, because you have to use your wrench. And in typical adventure game fashion, once you've used an item, it's gone. You never use it again. So you're like sitting there thinking, how do I get the shell? And then you go back and you realize that you can actually pick the wrench up again and use it on the old shell to get the new one.
I thought the wrench was gone. Yeah. I thought the wrench was destroyed, and so I was like, wait, but now I can't do it. And eventually I figured out, like, oh, I can pick up the wrench again, but you can't see it in the cogs that you threw a wrench into.
Yep.
So, I can't tell you how long it was before I realized I could jump down the hole the elevator made.
Yes.
That was
time.
I just kept trying to figure out, do I need to get on this thing? Do I need to make it put Joey on this thing? I don't know how to do this. I kept messing with the panels. Oh, well, there's no way to change the codes.
Right.
When we were playing it in 1994, that was actually, and this is like fairly early on into the game. This is like
the whole
second.
It's like the second screen. Yeah, third screen. Yeah.
When we were playing this in 1994, because there was a small group of us, because that's just how this worked then, we were just stuck on that screen for a long time. We were just like, we need to get onto this conveyor, this elevator, but how? And then someone had the revelation that, oh, incidentally, there's a small window where you can click on things where the elevator is going down. So maybe we should not slide down a pole. He was like, maybe we should jump into the hole. And then it turned out that Foster would slide down it like it was a fire engine hole. Yeah. And we're like, we didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Right.
Satisfaction.
But again, Right, but again, it does a terrible job of signposting. Unlike Loom,
Yep.
which you quite like, Loom did a very good job of signposting all the time.
Yep.
It was almost obvious this is what you needed to do to this. Like, even to the point where if you went into the sheep situation, you know, she was telling you, the lady there, maybe what you need to do, our sheep are all white. And then it immediately became apparent because she used specifically the word white. You needed to change the color.
Yeah.
I feel that Benita Steel.
Also, in that was really the interesting thing is there's multiple ways to do it because wasn't it George that made them invisible?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I turned them green.
Yeah, I turned them green. I thought that was the obvious answer.
Yeah.
George thought out of the box a little bit and it worked.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And unfortunately, I think that Benita Steel Sky doesn't do a good enough job of telling you what to do next and how to do it.
I would agree with that.
Right.
There was a lot of times where I'd go, okay, I'll just go whatever direction I feel like, and then eventually just die again.
So, I'm happy because we covered all of the things that I wanted to talk about this week. So, are we all happy? Is there let's open up the floor for a minute. Is there anyone who wants to talk about anything else specific to Benita Steel Sky?
I'll put up one more thing that bothers the hell out of me, and I know this is just the age of the game and its presentation. Whenever you talk to somebody, you can't just talk to them.
No, that's true.
You have to say hey, and then they walk to a pre-designated spot, and then you path to that next spot, and then the conversation starts, and that can take a while.
I've noticed sometimes when there's like Joey, your robot friend, is standing in the way, you just wait for like 30 seconds. And then you just I thought the game froze, but no, it just you just move on. You just wait again. You just and so that was
that along with Joey there, moving from screen to screen, Joey doesn't just automatically show up. He takes time for him to path in too, so you end up having to wait for him a lot.
Right.
Especially elevators.
And in fact that's a problem with Lamb, the guy who's the owner of the factory. There are spots where you need to talk to him in specific rooms, and you have to actually wait for him to get there. He has to actually walk his designated path before you can talk to him.
Yeah.
And that's just like, ugh.
It's
frustrating design.
And I know that this is just the age of the development, and if it were made now, I'm sure the refinements would be done.
Right. It's also because this is the era of adventure gaming where they're trying to make things a little bit more lifelike. Because this is also the era where Ultima 7 came out. And Ultima 7 was all about making a simulation that was an RPG. So people had little paths that they'd walk to go to the bakery or whatever. And so Revolution were looking at this and saying, that makes the world more alive. Let's do that. And unfortunately, in an adventure game, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It also pads out the time it takes to play.
Yeah.
Right.
Sadly. And with that, you're talking about the Lamb thing, with the elevator and Joey, and sometimes, and I had this happen 2 times in a row. I get on the elevator and Lamb steps in front of Joey, and I leave without Joey, and then I have to get back in the elevator and come back down, and then it happened 2 times in a row.
And what's frustrating about that is that very early on we learned that Joey has a rotor blade and he can fly, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to just, if they designed it that way, for him to just drop down and fly to you. But nope, you have to go up in the elevator, find Joey, rescue Joey, get him on the same screen as you are, get him to the elevator, and go down.
There's a lot of little frustrations, I think. But like I said, I don't hate this game. It's just I don't find a lot of redeeming qualities. But I am going to finish it because the story is very interesting to me.
Yeah,
there's a part later on that I thought was funny. Further on than you guys were supposed to play.
Do you want to talk about this next week, or do you want to talk about this now?
Whatever. It's
okay.
It's more a joke. Not really.
All right. Go for it.
So you go down another level, and Joey is. You would expect Joey to get into the elevator with you, but instead he just falls off of the walkway, and because he's got a new shell, he just smashes into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah,
and So that was just something funny about Joey and his little propeller. It stops working when you put a new shell on him.
Yep.
All right.
Yoda, you wanted to say something?
I was just gonna say that I think this game is when we examine all of its parts, they're certainly not great, but I think the game is definitely better than the sum of its parts. You know?
Yeah. Okay. I'll agree with that.
So like even though I can look at all the elements and go, these are all fairly weak. In comparison to things that I'd like to see out of a game like this.
Yep.
Somehow they come together in such a way that it keeps me interested enough to keep going.
Right.
Right.
The reason why I picked this, incidentally, there's two reasons why I picked this. The one is because I'm always intrigued by how early writers deal with the whole cyberspace concept. And this one has a weird enough cyberspace concept that I thought it might be worth playing. And the other thing is also, Beneath the Steel Sky has sort of become a cult classic for adventure gamers. I think it's a low-level cult classic, though, because it's not remembered by a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had never heard of it.
But the great thing about this is that when you discover what's actually going on, it's never going to be as good as Loom, it's never going to be as good as The Dig or whatever, but the revelation that comes up at the end is just like, okay, and that will sort of make you think about it a little bit differently, I think. But
I feel like it's worth finishing, certainly, and yeah, I agree with Cody. The game is probably much better than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. Oh yes.
But I wish they would have refined some stuff because it's just so.
Yes, because it's
I agree too. I don't think it should get an excuse for not refining a lot of those things, but yeah.
Well, again, though, that's the time. The time these games.
Yeah, that's the time.
That was good. That was what they did,
and that was the design.
Well, and
I mean, if you were to go back today and play the first Diablo game, you would be so angry because you have to click the button every time you want to.
Every time.
Yeah, Aaron put me in front of that for the first time. It was my first time playing any Diablo game. It was the first one, and that was maybe 4 years ago. And yeah, I was like, this spell is not yet ready. This spell is not yet ready. This spell is not yet ready. Because no matter where you click to walk, he's still going to say that. And so I would just turn to Aaron and shout, this spell is not yet ready.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing that until she was like,
but that game was great. I played the crap out of that game. You know what I mean? It was just that time of the way it went. Right. And things only got better.
I think that I'm not excusing it. I just can tolerate it better is because I grew up playing adventure games, so I understand all of the horribleness and I can deal with it. I don't know if you did, Jason, but
yeah, I played a lot of them. I enjoyed a lot of them. This one just doesn't hit me the way I would hope.
Yeah, so what I said was complete nonsense. And that's fine.
Well, I don't think that's true, but
no,
I get where you're coming from, but
that's what
it's no Monkey Island. We'll put it that way.
No,
it is not. But that's what I say. I mean, it's the kind of game that is a cult classic, but it's a small cult classic because only a handful of people remember it now.
Yeah, right. And I've definitely played way more adventure games that frustrate me to no end, and I don't like them or I'm not interested in the story.
True.
It just happens to be that Jason thinks this is one of those games for him, and that's fine.
every time we do Game Club, I think maybe I should subject you to an Infocom game, and then I stop and pause and go, "You will kill me at the end." So, Infocom are really good, but their puzzles are super duper hardcore. Like I said, the thing about Infocom games is that they were made at the very dawn of adventure gaming, and so that there wasn't really design advice back then. And one thing that they would constantly do is they would have ways to kill the player, or there's a thing called a lurking horror that would literally do that. Because the lurking horror is a horror game, and so there comes a point where you're down in a bunch of tunnels and it's a maze. And the way the lurking horror works is it's a turn-based adventure game. So there's a spot where literally every walkthrough that you ever read will tell you wait here 5 turns. And the reason for that is because there is a slithering thing that goes from one end of the maze to the other end. And if in those 5 turns you move, you will die. It's not negotiable. So I think about it sometimes. I'm like, nah. So, on the totem pole of adventure gaming, this particular game is kind of a decent 4 or maybe a 5 for its parts, but the story is not too bad, and it will resolve in an interesting way, I hope. So, any last thoughts? Does anyone want to say anything else before we move on?
I think I'm good.
Okay, Yoda.
No, I think I've said all I need to say about it. I think that my summary is still it's
right.
better than the sum of its parts. Yeah. It's palpable.
So sorry. Go Yoda. Finish.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I finished.
Yeah, I've got nothing more. I said all I wanted to.
Okay. Nikolai, just for the sake of comparison, I grew up with these two, which is why I like them a lot and which is why we keep on playing them. Right. So, all right, here we go. What we're gonna do for next week is we're gonna finish off Beneath the Steel Sky. Nikolai, will you be able to make it next week and be with us?
Can do that. Yeah. Maybe I won't. Now that I'm thinking about it, probably not. Actually.
Okay. Do you want to talk to one of your buddies and we can maybe reschedule Game Club so that you can be on the podcast?
Yeah, it's next weekend. I'll be out of town, and yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Talk to one of our friends, and then we'll see about rescheduling so you can be part of it, because it makes sense to have you back again.
Okay.
So the idea is we will finish Beneath the Steel Sky, and then we'll pick another game next week. So that is the plan for next week. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Game Club. It's been Beneath the Steel Sky. I have had Yoda with me. Say goodbye, Yoda.
Goodbye, Yoda.
Say goodbye, Screwloose.
Bye.
Say goodbye, Nikolai.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Ned. Have a great evening.